Alchemy in patch 11.1. What's changing? Is alchemy worth doing? What's making all the gold? What is the best profession spec? In patch 11.1, with alchemy, we have absolutely nothing new. I bet you're not tired of hearing that at all at this point. But as a profession, it does not mean that there are not some good gold making opportunities here. Now, I have touched on concentration builds with each profession that I've talked about for patch 11.1. Nothing wrong with alchemy concentration at all. It's fine. I don't really suggest setting it up on any characters though. The expense and the effort of setting it up is just so much more than with any other profession. There are worse concentration professions out there, but there are also better ones that are easier and cheaper to set up. That's probably not going to change much in patch 11.1. I still don't particularly think that it's worth setting these up. If we had something new come in, then maybe. But as it stands, no, I would go elsewhere for your concentration builds. If you're setting up from scratch, if you've already got them set up, then fine. Just continue to milk them for what gold they can give you. So we're going to talk about two alchemy professions today. So one of them is the crafting profession. So we're talking about crafting potions, vials, flasks, all that sort of stuff. And the other one is the thaumaturgy build, which is one that I've sort of been using quite a bit recently. Now, we will talk about profession setup, gold making potential, and what I think is the best depending what level you are at. So we'll look at the crafting one first, the potions, vials, and stuff like that first. So all rank 5 rare profession gear, multi-craft tool, resourcefulness enchant, bog standard setup. Knowledge point wise, we're going to need quite a lot of knowledge points here. So we need alchemy mastery capped. You also need any herb that you are going to be crafting with capped. So realistically, if you want any sort of decent variation of what you're crafting, you can need pretty much all of these capped out, and that's like already needing a ridiculous amount of knowledge points. That's already 250 knowledge points just to get this little section maxed out, and we're not even really got going yet. Then if we want to craft potions, we're going to have to max out potent potions and bulk mastery. If we want to craft flasks, we're going to have to max out fantastic flasks and bulk production again. And if we want to produce vials, then we need to have profession vials maxed out as well. In total, that means to be able to craft all the potions, vials, and flasks, you need 385 knowledge points, which is utterly insane, really. Now, you can cut some corners here, but the general point I'm trying to make here is the knowledge point investment here is really, really high. Now, when crafting potions, there are a few other things you need to do as well. So the most obvious thing is file a bountiful seasons. Like with everything at the moment, you need to be running this at rank 3. You need to be getting that huge resourcefulness buff, otherwise you've got absolutely no chance. File the quick hands from Dragonflight with Weaver's buff to get that crafting speed up as high as you can as well. For rank 3 crafting, we can min-max things a little bit more. So firstly, refining your own herbs is not a terrible idea. So refining your rank 2 herbs into rank 3. This is a cheaper way to produce rank 3 herbs than buying them off the auction house a lot of the time. But obviously, you do need to check prices. You can get the benefit of the Vial of Bountiful Seasons for the resourcefulness just while stats up at the moment, but normally it's just a 5-for-1 swap basically. What's absolutely mandatory these days with crafting rank 3 potions, vials, flasks, and stuff like that is the goblin ratio. The +5 skill here is insane. It allows you to switch out some rank 3 herbs for rank 2 herbs on basically all the crafts. So you can see here, this is apart from my sheet, and you can see here that you can sort of slow it down and check each one if you want, but this is the herbs that I suggest switching out on each of the different crafts, and this is going to bring down your crafting costs as well. Now, in addition to this, you can also use the plus skill items, and you can sort of, if the prices are right, then this can bring your crafting costs down even more. Even after the huge setup of knowledge points and all these extra steps that we've taken to min-max. So we've refined herbs to cut down our crafting costs a little bit. We've used our goblin to sort of, so we have to use even cheaper herbs. And we've done all these other little things. Profit margins can still be fairly sucky. I mean, you can see here on my scan that a lot of the stuff's in the red, and it is like this a lot of the time. A lot of the time, it is a real struggle to get profit. Potion, flask crafting, all that sort of stuff. It's not unusual to see 75% of the possible markets at a loss, and the prices on these seem to be more volatile than other markets. And not only that, but the cancel scanning on these markets are just a pain in the ass as well. It's such a competitive area. This is a huge amount of setup for this, way more than any other crafting profession, and the payoff on the profit margins and the competition you're going to face is just simply just not worth it at the moment. Yes, you can make a lot of gold here for sure if you are dedicated, but I have this set up already and I have not used it for months because I just don't feel it's worth it. I feel like that with other professions and other setups, you can get more reliable gold making, and you don't have the sort of the crazy cancel scanning that you do in the alchemy market, which is some of the worst out of any of the professions. Overall, then, at the moment, unless this is something you really, really want to do, I don't generally suggest going this way because I don't really think it's worth it. Like I said, I think you can do so much better, and you can check out some of the other 11.1 profession videos I've done. There are professions in there that are able to reliably make gold over the long term for the whole expansion, and they take a fraction of the cost and time to set up than sort of like a file, flask, and potion crafting build does. But that doesn't mean we can't make some good gold from alchemy. There is, however, an alchemy spec that I have been using quite extensively, and that's thaumaturgy. And this is basically processing sort of certain materials and turning them into lesser amounts of other materials. But it's one that I've found quite, I wouldn't say reliable, but it's definitely one that's interesting so far this expansion. This is actually an easier setup than the previous one as well. So obviously, once again, all rank 5 rare profession gear, resourcefulness tool, resourcefulness enchant. 50 points in alchemy or mastery, 55 points in thaumaturgy, 25 points in mercurial materials, 25 points in volatile materials, 25 points in ominous materials, and then 20 points in gleaming transmutagen to finish the build off. When you're running the main part of thaumaturgy, you need to have the Bind for Seasons rank 3 file activated, like you do with sort of like a lot of these builds. And of course, the crafting speed bonus from the File of Quick Hands from Dragonflight and the Weaver's buff, absolutely essential because this is a really slow process if you don't. Overall, I found this to be a much more stable way of making gold with alchemy than actually the crafting of stuff. This is especially true if you are using the cheap materials that you are producing and then putting them into some of your other crafting professions, then you can really start seeing the benefit so much more from doing that. Now, this is not a bad setup, knowledge point wise. It makes decent money and it combines well with other professions. But the one problem with this is not user friendly if you do not know what you're doing. You need a reasonably good calculator to be able to do this. It's like when I'm talking about prospecting. You need to know the results of what you are going to do before you do this, or you are going to be losing a lot of gold. This is frequently at a loss, so you need to know when it's at a profit, and you need to know when it's at a loss, or you're just going to lose loads of gold from doing the process. Now, recently I did a video talking about setting up your own crafting sheet so you can sort of predict the outcomes of this sort of thing. So I'll link that video in the description below, and you guys can check that out if you want to. And like I said, you can make sort of a calculator to be able to predict this, and from there you'll be able to use it to make profit. But overall, if anyone was to ask me, should I do alchemy in patch 11.1, I would probably not recommend it for the vast majority of players. We've seen the potion and flask crafting. It's mediocre at best for the amount of return you get from it. Like I said, you can make good gold from this, but the amount of effort it takes, even once you do have the setup to make the gold, compared to the other professions, to me, it's just simply not worth it. And that's why, like I said, I don't even use my crafter that I do have the vast majority of the time. Thaumaturgy, I find to be, it's probably one of my favorite specs so far this expansion. But you, like I said, you really need to have a good calculator set up to be able to do this. So that's why if you do want to give it a go, I'd suggest checking out that crafting sheet video. Like I said, if you are looking for something to set up that's sort of reasonably user-friendly, I would suggest checking out the other patch 11.1 profession videos. Pretty much all of them have something that's worth setting up. Just this profession in particular is probably not the best one for the vast majority of you. Thank you to the guys from Patreon whose support allows me to produce these videos and do all the research and things like that. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.